Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this third video on HCI, and today we will discuss about Introduction to Human-Computer Interactions. So let's jump into it. So I have a few slides on this topic, and it shouldn't take much time because this is just going to be like a quick intro to what HCI is about, and it's a little bit tied to the previous video that I had posted before, which is the brief history. But yeah, this video is going to introduce a few words and a few terms, something that I will be exploring more on different videos. But yeah, so HCI is the study for design, evaluating and implementing interactive computing systems for human use, as we know, and we will focus on this video, we will focus on behavioral sciences, which is psychology, and how that influences the design and the importance of research. So, and one thing to remember is that HCI is crucial in the field of UX. Also, I want to remind again that HCI is the bigger picture, and then UX and UI are the parts of it. So today we will look more towards, because the first 10 videos, the first 10 video of this course is more geared towards UX. We will explore everything in relation to that. So let's discuss about the importance of HCI. So there's 3 as of now, but there's definitely more. But I've listed the 3 main ones that I think is important. So let's talk about the first one, enhancing user experience. Well-designed interactions lead to better user satisfaction, productivity, and efficiency. Now, imagine you're designing a mobile banking app, and you would be using HCI principles to ensure that the interface is intuitive and easy to navigate. Users can easily locate functions like checking their balance, transferring funds, paying bills, and by understanding user behavior and preferences, you can design the interfaces that are not only just visually appealing, but also functionally efficient. And for instance, like incorporating gestures like swiping and tapping for navigation can make interactions feel more natural, and this leads to a more enjoyable user experience, I think. HCI methodologies help in identifying potential sources of user errors within interfaces and systems, right? And so, for instance, when designing software for, let's say, a data entry, utilizing techniques such as like input validation, clear feedback mechanisms, this can help prevent users from entering incorrect informations. And the third one being increased accessibility. So accessible interface design makes technology more usable for individuals with diverse needs and abilities. Incorporating HCI principles ensures that tech is accessible to a diverse range of users, and this includes those with disabilities. So like, by considering factors such as like screen reader compatibility, keyboard navigation, color contrast, by prioritizing accessibility and HCI, designers not only adhere to ethical guidelines, design guidelines, but they also expand their user base to include individuals with different sort of abilities. Here we are going to talk about the principles of HCI. So we'll talk about first we'll talk about the relevance of each, and maybe we'll also talk about the use case, a scenario, like when these are applicable. So the first one being user-centered design. Again, putting the needs and requirements of users at the center of the design process to create intuitive interfaces. What's the relevance of this? UCD is like really important in HCI because it ensures that the design process revolves around the needs, preferences, and limitations of the users. And by prioritizing users, UCD aims to enhance usability and satisfaction and accessibility of the product or the system. So imagine you're designing a banking app again, right? So you want to employ a user-centered design in it, and so you conduct a user research to understand your target audience better, their financial habits, technological proficiency, and their concerns about the security. Now, based on the research you did, you create a persona, and that represents a typical user. Throughout the design process, you continuously test prototypes with that persona and other users to gather feedback and iterate on the design. So by prioritizing your persona's needs, such as easy access to the account information and easy navigation, you create a mobile banking app that caters to her requirement, which enhances her user experiences. Consistency and adherence to design standards are crucial because it minimizes user confusion, cognitive load, and errors. So when users encounter familiar Understand this. When users encounter familiar patterns and interactions across different platforms, they can navigate and interact with new interfaces more intuitively because they are familiar with it. So let's think about a scenario where let's consider like you're designing a productivity software suite for that includes a word processor and a spreadsheet application and also a presentation software. So basically the Microsoft suite. So to ensure consistency, you maintain uniformity in all the interface elements, such as the menus, layouts, toolbars, icons, keyboard shortcuts. So when you use like the Google's suite or Microsoft suite, you know like how each of them have like quite the same similar layout, and each of them like how to increase the font size. There's like where exactly to click and where to navigate to if you want to access something. So this is because you're quite familiar with it. And so by adhering the industry standards and platform specific guidelines, users seamlessly transition between different tools within the software suite without experiencing like any confusion about the functionality. And number 3, feedback and communication. Providing users with clear and timely feedback to inform them of system status and interactions. So feedback mechanisms and clear communications are essential to provide users with immediate response to their actions, right? Because it informs them about the status and guide them through the complex tasks. So if feedback is like quite effective, it can increase the confidence in it, and it also reduces errors, and again, overall it enhances user experience. So let's think about a scenario like imagine you are designing an e-commerce website, right, where users can purchase clothes and accessories. So when a user adds an item to the shopping cart and the website provides a visual and auditory feedback confirming the successful addition to the item, right? Like you click on the plus button, and then there's like this cart right on the top right side of it, and it starts to have this like notification right next to it, like a red color with the number in it. And so what that does is it dynamically updates the shopping cart icon in the navigation bar to reflect the current number of items you have added to the cart. And let's say during the checkout process, the website communicates the order status and next steps clearly to the users. So during the checkout process, the website communicates the order status and next steps clearly to the users. For instance, it displays loading indicators during payment process and provides a confirmation message once the order is successfully placed. So yeah, to wrap up this whole 3 points, it's that the principles of HCI serves as a foundational guidelines to UX designers to create like really efficient and user-friendly interfaces. So right now, let's talk about foundations of human cognition and perception, as these are the fundamental concepts that play a crucial role in UX. And we'll break down each elements and explore their relevance and with some specific examples, okay? So there's 3 points I mentioned here: cognitive load, perceptual principles, attention, and focus. So cognitive load refers to the mental effort that is required to process information. And in UX design, understanding cognitive load is really important because it directly impacts how users interact with products and interfaces. Well, for example, imagine you're designing a banking app again, and in this case, the user interface contains too much information on a single screen. Like, this is definitely going to lead to frustration and confusion. And to reduce this, you can simplify the interface by breaking down those complex numbers or tasks into smaller chunks, more manageable steps, and a very few at a time. So for instance, like presenting the only essential banking features like balance inquiry, maybe like e-transfer, like fund transfer in separate section, and you can help users focus on one task at a time. And this overall is going to reduce the cognitive burden. So perceptual principles. Perceptual principles refers to how human interpret and make sense of visual information. And in UX design, leveraging perceptual principles helps designers create interfaces that are visually appealing and easy to understand and intuitive for the users. So for example, consider designing a website, and in that, by applying the Gestalt principles, which include proximity, similarity, continuity, closure, and so much more, you can organize visual elements in a way that guides the user's attention and enhances their overall browsing experience. So for instance, grouping related items together, using consistent visual style for familiar categories, and creating a clear visual hierarchy maybe can help users quickly locate and navigate throughout the product listing with very ease, like effortlessly. And all the things that I talked about here, the Gestalt principles, we will discuss about that in a separate video, because we will have an entire video just on the psychological parts of aspect of design. And lastly, attention and focus. Attention and focus are critical aspects of human cognition that influences how users perceive and interact with digital interfaces. In UX design, capturing and maintaining users' attention is essential for guiding them through the intended user journey that designers have intended and facilitating meaningful interactions. So supposedly you are designing a productivity app, and that helps users manage their tasks and schedules, right? And to ensure users stay focused and engaged, you can incorporate visual cues such as like color contrasts, animations, strategically placing interactive elements to draw attention to important notifications. And by designing clear and visually distinct call to action buttons, users can easily identify and respond to prompts, enhancing their overall productivity and satisfaction with the app. And to wrap this whole thing up, understanding the foundation of human cognition and perception is a big deal in UX design, as it enables designers to create intuitive, user-centric interfaces that effectively communicates information. Now let's talk about user interface design. As you can see, each of them has a number right on top of it, because this is a step-by-step process, and this is one of the things we will really get deep into when we talk about user UI design. So the first stage being, so these are like 5 different stages, and starting from research to empathizing to creation to testing and then to developing. So there's the research, right? So during the research phase, UI design plays quite a big role in understanding the user preference. So at first, you research, you gather user demographics, their name, age, what their jobs, about their role, so that it gives you an idea of who you are designing for. And then you define some user goals and challenges. So you research them, you ask them questions, you understand their preference and behaviors, and then you define like goals and challenges that they're facing, what goals they have from a product, and what challenges are they facing when they're trying to achieve that goal. And you define some metrics, and form a hypothesis for testing. So you are going to have, like, if you're running a survey or something, you are going to have numbers. So it's a numbers game, and you are having them to what the issues are, and the things that you can do, like a hypothesis that you can form that you think is going to solve the problem. Maybe like the user prefers a cleaner design, right? And in the Likert scale, they say that how important is it for them. So out of, like, from 0 to 5, they put 5 on it. Maybe it's the most important thing that they're looking for. So one of the things that during your design decisions that you're going to make is to make a really clean looking design, because and like very using minimalistic icons or colors. Then you are going to empathize. See, these 2 points are closely tied together. Again, after you have understood what your user wants, you are going to create some personas, you're going to make up some scenarios, and then you will develop a user journey map. A lot on these very depth on different videos when we talk just about UI design. So you basically, in this stage, you're empathizing with users by considering their preferences, right? And now you are going to accommodate those like differences. And because everybody is different, and you understand that every user comes from a different cultural background, and everybody has a distinctive design preference. Then there's the creation phase, which is where you ideate, where you come up with ideas, you make your initial sketches, you make low fidelity prototypes, right? You make a style guide. So these are where you like set out you focus on creating visually appealing layouts, like selecting the right colors, typography, graphics, and designing navigations, right? On the next one, you do a lot of testing, and testing is an integral part of usability. This is where you will evaluate how well users can interact with the interface and accomplish a task that you want them to. Here you're going to see how well a user accomplishes a task that they said that you define in their user goals, and whether or not they're still facing the challenges you are testing like your apps, you might observe how users interact with the buttons that you created, the forms and the menus, and you gather those feedback for clarity, right? And then you iterate on the design. So before making a final design, you keep looping through this whole from all the way from number 1 to number 4. You keep looping through this process until you have made significant changes, and then you move on to number 5. This is also important because, let's say, after just a very few feedback, you finalize that, okay, this is the design we are moving in with, and then you hand it off for development. But let's say there are many changes that was required. Now that you have to go back and change it back again, it's going to cost a lot because you already handed it over to the developers and they were getting paid for making it, and now you are having to redesign it, and now this is at stop. So it just like messes up with the whole system. So it's better to do it early on before handing it off to the developers. And in this stage, in the develop stage, you serve a blueprint for front-end developers and guide them in implementing the visual interactive elements of the product. So for example, UI designers provide detailed specifications, including color codes, font styles, spacing guidelines, and interactive behaviors to ensure consistency and accuracy in the final product. So yeah, that's for the user interface design. And we'll now talk about the user research methods. So user research is a critical component in the UX design process because it helps designers understand user behaviors, needs, and preferences, right? And here's 8 different methods that I have listed, but there's definitely more, but we'll talk about some of the ones that I'm familiar with and it's mostly used. So the first one being survey design. So what's the importance of it? Well, surveys are a quantitative research method. Again, surveys are a quantitative research method that help collect data from a large number of participants. Now, what's the relevance for it? Well, launching a new feature on a website, you could use surveys to gather opinions on its potential usefulness. And what could be a use case? Well, create a survey with like a Likert scale questions to gauge user satisfaction with the current navigation system on an e-commerce platform, maybe. Then there is interview techniques. The importance is that an in-depth interview provide qualitative insights into the user's thoughts and motivation and experiences. And it is relevant because before redesigning an app, you should conduct interviews to understand pain points, motivations, and their goals. And interviewing users who frequently use, like, let's say, a fitness app to uncover challenges they face and the features they desire, and you can maybe implement it in the new design if you're working for a fitness company. Understanding user behaviors and needs in their natural environment through observation and interviews. So what's the relevance in the use case of this? So let's say when designing a smart home device, conduct an ethnographic research to observe how users interact with existing appliances, and observe how families use voice-activated assistants to identify patterns and pain points. Then there is usability testing. The importance of this is that it directly evaluates the usability of a product by observing user performing tasks. And so, for example, usability testing could be used to test the checkout process on an e-commerce site to identify friction points and optimize for a seamless user experience. So as I scroll down, there's the last 4. So then there's A/B testing. It allows designers to compare 2 or more versions of a design to determine which performs better. So maybe like Disney Plus versus Netflix. So that could be an A/B testing. That's also because it's the same type of thing that we are comparing against each other. Like both are websites that streaming platform, because they both are streaming platforms. So that is going to provide insight. And what's the relevance and the use case of it? So A/B testing is used to test 2 different homepage layouts to see which one results in a higher user engagement, right? And experiment with, like, that could be done by experimenting with different button colors or text on a call to action to maybe optimize for conversion rates. And there's field studies. The importance is that it involves observing and interacting with users in real world setting and gathering contextual insights. So let's say you have designed a navigation app, and you can accompany a friend on a hiking trip while having them test a mobile app that's designed for them to help them with the trail navigation. Then there's experience mapping. So this visualizes the user journey to identify pain points and opportunities for improvement. And it is for example, you can create an experience map for an online learning platform to understand the student's journey from enrollment to course completion. Well, the university that I went to definitely didn't have a good experience with with my journey from enrollments to course completion, because the website it was back from the 98, I don't know, and still does. That's surprising. Then lastly, there's cognitive walkthrough, and this evaluates the user's interface from the perspective of a new user, focusing on the ease of learning, like how well can somebody learn something new. And this is done by assessing the onboarding process of a mobile banking app to ensure users can easily understand and perform essential tasks, and by making them walk through the steps of a new user would take to set up their account and make their first transaction. Designers are going to identify the potential usability issues. And lastly, I think this is the last page of it. And lastly, this is design heuristics and evaluation. And on our next video, we will talk more about this design heuristics and evaluation. So there's 3 points I mentioned. There's more, but the 3 important ones that I think are user-centered design, the 10 design heuristics, we will learn more about that. And then there's conducting heuristics evaluation. So now we are getting into the meat of UX. So UCD, let's understand this. So heuristics are based on the principles of user-centered design, which prioritizes the needs, preference, and behavior of users throughout the design process. So let's consider a scenario like in designing a mobile banking app. Understanding users' financial goals, transaction habits, and security concerns informs decisions about the app's layout, features, and interactions. That's, again, keeping the user as the center and designing around them what they are looking for. And then there's 10 design heuristics, like those are guidelines or rules of thumb used by designers to create effective and user-friendly products. There are 10 common design heuristics, which includes from visibility of system status all the way to feedback and user actions. We will learn about all 10 of them and how those are used in the initial phase of designing to prevent us from before, like, let's say we're trying to launch a website, we can run the heuristics and see whichever is failing and how we can fix that. And lastly, it's conducting heuristic evaluation, which is a method, again, it's used to assess the usability of a user interface by the experts. This is not by the people, these are by the experts who evaluate against a set of established heuristics or guidelines. So we are using the 10 different guidelines here again to evaluate those heuristics of a website or an app before launching it or before handing it over to the developers. But I think, yeah, this is all for today. And honestly, this week I haven't been feeling well. I'm just a little bit sick. I caught cold, and I think I hope to be better by next week, and we will discuss more about like the real topics, the meat of UX, and we are going to dig deep into each of those topics so that we have a better idea of where this is going. But for now, thank you so much for watching the video. Until next time, bye-bye.